we have what I call a successipy. It's a recipe for success, right? And there are 3 ingredients.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I'm your host today. My name is Brett Gilliland. I'm with Elite Entrepreneurs, and it's our privilege to interview business owners on a regular basis who are doing the thing. They're real people doing real work and learning real lessons, and they're dealing with real challenges. And so what we do is we bring business owners on here, and we have them share something that's been really helpful to them in hopes that it'll be helpful to you and your business. And then we have them share something they're wrestling with right now that might be helpful to you as you're trying to grow your business. So that's what we're doing. Today, our guest is Adam Albrecht. Adam is the founder of The Weaponry. And my best way of describing The Weaponry is this really, I don't know, high-end, high-quality video, high-quality creative for well-known brands who are trying to continue being well-known brands, trying to help their clients, their customers, keep them top of mind. And I was super impressed when I went and checked out their website. In fact, I'm going to mention it right now. It's theweaponry.com. Theweaponry.com. If you want to check it out, maybe while you're listening to this, super high quality video and creative that they're cranking out. So, welcome, Adam, to the show today. Glad you're here.
Hey, thank you, Brett. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, I gave a very 30,000-foot view of who you guys are at The Weaponry, but I'd love for you to say it in words that you'd like to present your business to others. Give us some context. What is The Weaponry?
Yeah. So The Weaponry is a advertising and ideas agency, and we're really full service. We do about anything a client would need, a brand would need in their marketing space, and the name The Weaponry really comes from the idea that we wanted to be able to offer our clients all the weapons in one place, right? So because what we found was that there were a lot of clients, especially mid-sized clients or even smaller brands that didn't want to or didn't have the bandwidth to bring in a whole and manage a whole bunch of different agencies to handle different parts of their business. So we said, we're going to offer you all the weaponry in one place. That puts the onus of the management of all of the activities you need to engage with on our side, not on yours, which frees up more time on more time in the day on behalf of our clients, and allows all of the activities to be synergistically integrated, and that has all kinds of benefits across the board over the long term for our clients. So we, as you mentioned, we do a lot of video, a lot of television work. We do a lot of out of home. We do a lot of websites. We do tons of social media, lots of all forms of digital content and digital advertising, and basically when a client comes to us and say, we need help with X, we deliver it, right? So there are, and if we don't have the capabilities in house, we augment our team with specialists to make sure that it's easy and that our clients never have to go shopping. They just come and talk to us, and we provide.
Well, it's not the purpose of this show, but if you need some creative help, check out The Weaponry. Pretty awesome. What I saw when I went to their website, and brands that you would all recognize. So anyway, awesome, cool, Adam. Great what you've built. And one more thing I got to say about The Weaponry. When I was talking with Adam before we hit record about his team, he was telling me how many people are on his team. And instead of saying people, employees, team members, associates, he said, I have this many weapons on my core team. I just love that. I love that term. I got this many weapons. And then by extension, he mentioned the arsenal of additional weapons outside his core team that they have access to just deliver whatever you guys have by way of needs in your creative advertising. So well done on putting together an arsenal of weapons, Adam. That's cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's get to the heart of what we're here to do today, and that is to have Adam share what are real things that he's learned as he's made this transition from the sole weapon at one point, who was just the creative genius bringing in other talent to make something happen, to now he's built the whole team. He's got to learn how to lead that team. He's got to level up and not be in the day-to-day of everything. There are lessons that we're all trying to learn, and you've learned some things. What would be helpful to other business owners? What's been core to your success in that transition?
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the most I've started with a few really important rules of thumb or guides for the organization, and I share these in every meeting we have with our team, right? Which is, that the weaponry will really be successful. We have what I call a successipy, right? It means it's a recipe for success, right? And there are three ingredients, right? And so the three ingredients for us is that we want to make sure we're always offering great creative ideas, excellent customer service, and a fun experience for everybody involved, right? Those
Mhm.
three things mean that our product is good, that the idea that the product is good, that the service, the way that we serve it up, the way that we handle and service our customer is good. And then the third ingredient is the best one, right, which is we're going to have fun the whole time, right? And so we do things a little bit differently. We have a little bit more fun and a little bit more a little more entertainment and everything that we do with our clients. So I just start with that we start with a really simple base of guiding principles of why we're doing what we're doing, and if we are successful with those three things, we know we're going to be successful for forever. And if we fail, it's because we weren't good at one of those things, right? Either it wasn't fun for our people, for our team, for our clients, or for our partners or vendors. The service was poor. That means we're losing clients, and if the product isn't good, nobody's coming back, right? So we know that those three things really allow us to really boil the business down into some very, very simple component parts. But on top of that, I'd say that one of the most important things that you have to do as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, is make sure you're never losing sight of finding your next clients, right, and never losing sight of the importance of growth, right. And we've developed a pretty a nice philosophy on that, which is we want to, from a new business perspective, we like to imagine that all of our clients are going to disappear on December 31st every year, right? So at the end of 2024, last day, all of our clients go away and we have to start fresh on January 1st. So with that mindset, we're always thinking about business development. We're always thinking about developing new relationships and outreach, and making sure that our pipeline is full of new prospects and opportunities. But on the other hand, we also want to treat our clients so well that they never want to leave, right? So while we're imagining they're always going to go away, we are going to treat them so well and our hope is that it never does, right? It's a little bit like a marriage. You'd say, I'm going to fear that you're going to go away, and so in response, I'm going to treat you so well that you never want to leave, right? And that
Yeah.
has been a really, really good, simple set of philosophies that work together to keep us humming. Our last 2 years, both 22 and 23, have been our best 2 years of the eight that we've been in business, and so we're quite enthusiastic about that what we're doing is working and that the clients keep coming back for more. So those are a couple of really simple things that we do, but we also, and I think that one thing that I do, that I encourage other business owners to do, is uh, I I know that business development is a really important part of our success, of our uh, it is what keeps the lights on and keeps the Lucy eating chocolates at the end of the chocolate
Yeah.
factory.
Right.
And so I move my business development activities to the first thing in the morning, right? So
Mhm.
when I get into work in the morning, I don't say, that's an afterthought. I'll get to some biz dev work later in the afternoon. I schedule a block. I get in and take care of pressing issues from 9 to 10, and then from 10 to 11, it is business development every day, right? And making sure that if that really is a priority, that you prioritize it in a block early in your day to make sure it's handled before the rest of the whirlwind of the day throws you off track. That's something I would definitely pass along to other entrepreneurs, because that's how you make the magic.
Adam, it sounds like it's working. I love Successipy, by the way. Successipy is incredible from,
Yeah, my
it
success
just
fee. Yeah,
highlights
yeah, it's
your
good.
the creativity that you guys have and also the fun. So,
Yeah, well, I
weaponry,
appreciate
calling your
that.
team weapons, Successipy, like just changing it up, having fun, making it more creative is really cool. And then I don't want to gloss over the the core thing that you were teaching. When you boil down your success recipe to a few simple things, it's a lot easier to keep your eye on those balls than when you have like,
Oh, for
here's
sure.
my, my 15 things in my success recipe. That's a success recipe for disaster. That's a disaster fee pea, whatever
That's yeah, right.
right?
Well, but when I knew that we had figured out a good success recipe I would when I would be recounting, or going through our pillars for success in our meetings, or our reason for being, and seeing the mouths of our weapons mouth, seeing people mouth the words as I'm saying them, means that not only are they simple enough to remember, not only are we not only and clear, but we're repeating them often enough that they've really sunk in. Everybody knows. And like there was a, if you walked in here, if you walk into most organizations and said, what are the key tenets of this business, or what are the company's values or mission
Yeah.
or vision? Most of the time, you're like, I don't know. I think I heard something about the future being bright, about helping with
Right.
solutions and strategies. Right. With ours, it's very simple. Like I would bet money to anybody walking in here that all of our people know all of our key points, because we keep it simple. I mean, there's an advantage to us being an advertising agency, is that we understand that simple communication is best. We understand the importance of repetition and clarity, right?
And
And
it's got to be
so we
sticky,
stress
right? It's
that,
got to be memorable.
and it's got to
Yeah.
stick. It's got to stick. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right, for sure.
Yeah, that is so cool, Adam. Thank you. If nothing else, I think people could stop listening right now and have taken away something super valuable. I hope they won't stop listening, because I think we're gonna deliver even more value. But that was superb. So, is it safe to say that your success principles, your success recipe, that you hire for those qualities or those attributes? You lead to them. You fire to them.
I think that that's really important, right? I think that you have to be able to. Uh, so when we're talking about our offering great creative ideas, we have to hire that, right?
Yeah.
And you have to you and I don't. And while I'm happy and I love coaching people up, you have to have a certain level of skill and talent to walk in the door, right? And
Yeah.
so it's interesting. Early in my career, I was challenged in my first role as a creative manager, as a creative leader, as to how to hire the right people. And so when I would see portfolios of of books of creative work from writers, art directors, designers, I would say, yeah, this stuff looks good, but should I hire them? And so I had an interesting challenge to say, what is the line that you have to cross, that goes from let's say technically sound to gotta have them on my team. And I discovered, and I came up with something. What I recognized was that it, is that you couldn't just be technically sound to be part of our team. What I needed to see was something that made me jealous. Right. If I was envious
Mm.
of something that I saw that you did that I wish I had done, then I knew I needed you on our team, because then I knew you would make our team better. Right. You would be a great addition. You would make our work better. You would attract more of what we were looking for. And so that is my simple rule of thumb for all of our creative people, is that they have had to have created work that I was envious of, that I was jealous of, that I wish I had done myself in order to join our team. And if you don't meet that standard, if I can't look at the work and say, that piece, I wish I did that piece, then we pass. Right?
Yeah.
There doesn't mean they're not talented. It just means that they're not for us.
Yeah, no, I love how clear you get about what you're looking for. I love the simplicity of it, and it sounds like in all your communication, because you help people communicate, you get clear, you get repetitive, you make sure that it's going to stick, and you're clear on your criteria in hiring, to the degree that very simply, does this pass the bar? You know where the bar is set, and if they
Right.
pass
That's
it,
it.
you can see it clearly. So that's
That's
awesome.
it.
Okay. Um, all right, so let's shift gears. You shared a lot of great things that I know many people will benefit from. Let's talk about something that in your growth journey is still something you're learning about. You're still
Yeah.
wrestling with, that might be beneficial to others. What would that be?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is a good, interesting challenge for any entrepreneur and any business owner, is um, figuring out how to continue to grow and expand your team, and as as you are looking to grow, figuring out when is the right time to add the next people or the next person to the team. So when I in our business, we can there's a great opportunity for freelancers, right? There's a lot of opportunity to hire contract help in various areas of specialty. But I'm also a real team player, and I love I grew up playing team sports, and I just love the team environment, and I love people. I love people on our team full time because there's something about a great, not only the great the overall team, but also like that executive leadership team that is, when you huddle up together and say, here's where we're going and here's how we're going to do this, and here's where we identify the next opportunity. I just love that. I love the leadership huddle on a really great team. And so one of the things that I wrestle with as we continue to grow the weaponry is, when is the right time to hire that next person who could help lead that next piece of next area of specialty for us. So as an example, we a few years ago we had several opportunities for requests to take on social media for our clients, and so we had some freelancers who helped us with this in the beginning of the organization. And but we really knew that there was enough there that a full-time person would be a great addition to our team. So we found one of the people who we've done some contract work with. We saw that there was a great body of work for them to lead. We brought them in, and it has worked out very well. Our head of social media, Taylor Almond, is a rock star, and clients love her, and we continue to get more and more opportunities there. But then when we look at other models, we would say, we handle a lot of media, but we don't have an in-house media person. Okay. So that's another area where we'd say, like, it's kind of a chicken and egg issue now. Like, when can we say we have enough media requests that we then bring our person in full time? Or we do a bit of the same thing on public relations, where we have multiple halftime weapons or part-time weapons that don't count as part of the 13 I mentioned. I mentioned to you earlier when we were talking. So figuring out when is the right time to hire those next leaders, those difference makers, because you know that they can be great profit centers for the organization, but you don't want them to be a drain on the way to profitability, right? And so figuring
Right.
out when it's a little bit, Brett. It's a little bit like, for those of us who are old enough to have driven a stick shift car, with a standard transmission. It's a little bit of figuring out when does it feel like the right time to shift gears, where we are
Mm.
going to where we're going to maximize our momentum and minimize the downside of the additional expense, because every employee is more of an expense before they're an asset to us again. And
Yeah.
figuring that out has been or is an ongoing challenge for us. And so I would love to hear from you if you have any guides or rules or words of encouragement or inspiration as to when the hire leads to the work and when the work leads to the hire.
Yeah, very good, and I love this issue, Adam. I thank you for teeing it up. It applies to any business anywhere. Like, when is the right time to hire that next person? And so we'll dive into that. Before we dive into that, I always like to just take a step back and say, well, what's the cost or the impact if we don't get it right? So,
Yes,
and it doesn't have to be a dollar cost. It could be, other impacts, but certainly a dollar cost is useful. We all kind of think that way financially. So you alluded to some of these, but let's just get real clear for a minute. What's the impact, or
sure.
what's the actual cost if we get this wrong? What do you think? Like, I'm
Yeah, well,
interested in your business. What's the downside if you don't get it right?
yeah. There's both a financial there's three costs in my mind to getting it wrong. One is the
Yeah.
financial cost, one is
Yeah.
the time cost, and the third is the culture cost, right?
Say more about the
Because
time cost. Say more about the I
yeah,
think everybody knows, like, there's a dollar cost, right? Like,
Yeah.
If we hire
So
too early, now my profit margins are pinched, and now I'm in scarcity mode. Like, we get that, but the
yes.
time cost, talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So if we hire the even the right person at the wrong time, let's say, but for sure if you get the wrong person, you
Yeah,
then are wasting you then there is additional time spent on your new challenge. There's additional time wasted or spent brain power towards how are we going to deploy this differently? How do we change what we might have gotten wrong? There is um, how do we redeploy their time, in a way, how do we deploy their time in a way that is effective or impactful?
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and like I view the years, I view what we're doing at the weaponry over the years, right? But the scorecard is year by year, right? And
Mhm.
so every year from January 1st, we're on, our fiscal year is the calendar year. And so from January 1st to December 31st, that is the score, that is the clock, that is the scorecard. And when I see at the end of the year, when I see, our QuickBooks reset on January 1st to like you have $0 of revenue, $0 of profit, $0 in anything. Like it's like you don't
And you have
exist,
0
right?
clients. You told us you have 0
Zero,
clients, right?
zero class because they all went away, right?
Yeah,
So that's how I love I love the sports analogy here, right? So I do love the fact that we the countdown is counting down to December 31st every year,
yeah, right.
because and we count, our scorecard is year over year. Are we growing? Was this season better than last season? And so with that, I hate the idea of lost time with the wrong person,
Yeah,
where again it's a inordinate amount of attention spent on that challenge, on that resource of trying to get things right, maybe leading them to the promised land instead of them leading us. I mean,
yeah.
those things are challenging, and I don't necessarily. I also think that there is within one of the we talked about business development because it's an important part of entrepreneurs world, um, but it's also challenging. You almost have to assume that none of the other people that you bring onto your team are very good at business development. The vast
Mhm.
majority of people aren't skilled in that world. And so the amount of extra time now that you need to dedicate, like, so let's say I bring in a new head of user experience as an example. Bring in a
Mhm.
new head of user experience, and we realized that we knew that we had 20, that they would be booked, 33% of the time, a third of the time we already knew we had. But if they're not very good at selling, then I have to spend more of my time trying to sell this service that I didn't have to sell before they were on our clock full time, because
Right.
before I would just have to sell when a client had a need, we would fill it. It's a little bit like
Yeah,
just in time, delivery. Hey, they have a
right.
need, we match them with the resource. But if I have that person on my staff full time, now I have to spend more time selling, promoting, and filling their time to make them profitable, and that's time
Yeah,
away from other things. Okay,
yeah.
and so that
Totally
that
makes
time
sense.
and attention towards selling that is time and attention away from anything else we might sell, promote, create, fix. So that's how I think
Yeah.
about the time issue.
Okay. And then, not to drag this on anymore, but on the time front, the expense of not having the person when we need them, there's a time cost there as well, where people are like pinched for time because their plates are so
That's it.
full, the rest of your weapons are so full, they're occupied,
Yep.
that there's some things that either takes them time, in the evenings or weekends or whatever, to try to make it happen. So anyway, on both sides of that, what's the right timing? There's a time cost. And then on the culture cost, I totally get that, but let's just name it. The culture cost is, boy, if I don't bring in somebody soon enough, the rest of my team, it starts to feel like, wow, we're burning candle on both ends. We're trying to keep up, but we could use some more help. So if we're a little late on that, and the client experience can suffer, which kind of bleeds into the fun and the your
That's right.
successipy,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
okay.
That's right.
So all that makes sense. All right. So it sounds pretty important that we should be talking about this. Here's a
Yeah.
couple ideas. Here's a couple ideas. One of them has to do with the concept that actually Michael Gerber from the E Myth talked about years
Yeah,
and
I
years ago.
love that. I recommend E-Myth to every entrepreneur. Everybody should read that
Yeah, so good.
before you become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I can even say decades now instead of years ago, but decades ago, he shared a concept that most people either didn't really pay attention to, it wasn't the headline, or they just underappreciated, and that's the concept of the future org chart. The future org
Yeah.
chart is a little bit of a roadmap for your organization structure, and
Yep.
I don't know if he did this very well, but I like to pin the future org chart to mission completion. You have these
Mhm.
successive P's. So like here are the principles. It's simple.
Yeah.
Everybody knows them. But we also in I guess in concert with those successive P elements that you've so clearly identified, we need to know as a team where's the specific destination that we're going together right now. Like what's the thing we're trying
Mhm.
to accomplish over
Right.
and I like a 3-year mission, but like here's the
Sure.
place where we're going. Here's the thing that we're accomplishing. And the only reason I'm spending any time on a specific destination right now is your future org chart should be tied to mission completion or
Sure.
destination arrived,
Sure.
right? Like at
Mhm.
the end of that
Yep.
time, we will have arrived. At that point in time, we know roughly how much work we'll be doing, how much client work of different types we'll be doing because the mission is so clear, and we'll know the
Yep.
amount of weapons that we'll need on our team. We'll know the structure that we will have to have.
Yep.
Now,
Right.
can we be wrong? Maybe a little bit, but you
Yeah.
won't be very far off. You'll kind of know here's what the team will need to look like at mission
Yep.
completion. With that
Yep.
clarity of that future mission, that future org chart clarity, now we can start with where we are today, and we start to see how it needs to build out over time. Now that doesn't
Yes.
answer the timing question, but it does answer
Right.
the what are the roles, and in roughly in what order will we need to add them.
Yeah.
And that's helpful,
Yes.
right? It's like, hey, I
Yes.
can see the roadmap to my org structure goes from where we are to where we need to be at mission completion. Because if we haven't built that thing, we won't achieve that mission, right? Like
You're
it's
right.
just
Totally right.
we won't happen. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm glad that you brought that up though, because I have found great I found great value in what he shares about the future org chart. And for anyone who hasn't read it, the essence of it is if you are not when you're an entrepreneur in the startup and you are the only person, you basically create a full org chart and your name is in every box,
That's
right?
right.
And then the goal as you develop the organization is to replace your name in many of these boxes that you are not a specialist in with the name of somebody who is, right. So there your you replace it with the head of accounting and the head of project management and head of HR and all that. It's a very good way to go, that where you recognize why you might be drowning in the beginning and what you need to do to save yourself.
That's right. And it's really the principle of begin with the end in mind. It's just applied to this
Yes.
idea that most of us don't spend time on the org structure. A lot of
Yep.
business owners do this org structure by, not by design, but by default. It's like, well, I was feeling
By
the most
default.
pain in this right now, so I brought somebody on, and then you get this like it's like building a house like without seeing the rest of the house, one addition at a time. I don't know. It gets clunky. And so if
Yeah,
you
that's
have
right.
an end in mind, then you build a structure that goes with it. So that should
That's right.
just inform the end result of the structure, and then ideally you're picking off in order of importance, strategically what would be the next best hire. So that's still not the timing,
That's right.
but at least the path for the hiring. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So with the
Yep.
path
Yep.
for hiring in mind, let's talk about the timing. What I've found to be helpful, I'm going to share the most helpful idea first in case we run out of time, and then if I get to others, we will.
Yeah,
The most
good.
helpful idea that I've come across as I've dealt with hundreds of business owners is a revenue per employee, revenue per
Mhm.
employee, and let me explain to it. Um, the reason I like this is especially with somebody who has as much history as you do. You've got 8 years of history. That's enough history for you to look back and you can reconstruct this pretty easily. It's like, what was my total revenue? What were the number of team members? Right? As at the start of the
Right.
game, we had this many for
Yep.
that year. I like how you talked about the
Yep.
sports analogy of
Yeah, yeah.
this year's a game. Right? We've got quarters. We know the score. Like all that works really
Right.
well. So at the beginning of the
Right.
game, we had this many players, we had this many weapons. At the end of the year, we had this many weapons. But you can track the revenue per weapon in your case and see,
Hmm.
and you go back and remember at this felt about the right. I'm going to talk about like financial health. Like there was the
Yeah.
right amount of stretch in our budget. Like we were investing in growth,
Yep.
but
Yep.
we weren't to the point of like every day I wake up and I have to look at the bank balance to see where we're at. Right. Like there was
Right.
it
Right.
was comfortable. It was comfortable growth. So
Yep.
we were pushing ourselves, but it wasn't beyond the point of comfort. So you go
Yep.
back and you'll notice a revenue per weapon for you. I love that.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm
Yep.
not going to stop saying revenue per weapon, and you'll see a pattern. Every time you hire, you know exactly what's going to happen, right? Every time you hire, revenue per weapon goes down. It's like, whoa,
Right.
now we're less
Right.
efficient. But then as that weapon produces more, we start to go up.
Yep.
The revenue per employee goes up, and you start to see it not just stabilize but go up. So you see this
Yeah.
pattern.
Right.
Like, it'll grow as you're becoming more efficient and everybody's more productive, and then you hire somebody and immediately it drops, and then it
Yep.
grows, and then it drops, and then it grows, and then it drops. Right. So you'll
Right.
see
Yep.
some patterns if you go back and look at your revenue per employee. As you do that, what you're starting to build in now is a financial signal that says, "Oh, we're about at the point where we can afford to hire." Now,
Right.
that's not going to
That's a
be
great one, Brett.
yeah, you're not going to use that in isolation. You're going to use that in like a
Right.
GPS system triangulates, right? And
Yep.
so
Right.
I know you know over time, you're going to be watching your client demand. I'll call it your
Right.
creative demand as it grows. So
Yep.
we have X number of clients, and across those clients, we have this much video demand. We have this much
Right.
website or web development demand. We have this much copy demand, and so
Right.
you get a sense for how the demand is increasing across those creative specialty areas. And so
Yep.
you're going to triangulate, you're going to use revenue per employee to give you a sense for the affordability factor. And you're going to
Yep.
use your client demand to know which skill sets you're going to be able to fill so that you don't have to go
Yep.
sell differently. And you're also going to know from your future org chart, how you're building towards that future thing. Um, one small thing that I skipped on the future org chart that's hyper relevant to this conversation is
Sure.
the org chart reflects the strategy for your mission. So, for
Right.
example, if your mission is we're going to become, the number one agency, your number one creative agency for video, for TV commercials,
Yep.
you're going to become a different organization than if you're like any project, social, copy, website, well, if we're doing everything, that's a different strategy than we're going to
Yep.
be the TV commercial destination, right? Everybody's going to
Yeah.
come to us for that. So
Yeah.
your org chart is going to reflect the strategy you've chosen to achieve your current mission. And then
Yep.
you're going to look at your revenue per employee and you're going to triangulate with your client demand and you're going to see how that picture is coming together. I hope a little more clearly now that we've had this conversation than you could before on the timing.
Yeah. 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 That's good. That definitely gives a again another rule of thumb, a metrics to use to uh, to make these decisions with. So you're not just putting your finger in the air and figuring out which way the wind blows at any
Right.
given time, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. No, and you can tell I'm a little passionate about it. I could geek out on this stuff, but
It's good.
your lessons that you shared were, I mean, I'm not here to grade them, but from my perspective, they were spot on. Getting clear about that successipy, and I love that term. And the simpler it is, the better. And then aligning your whole team around that, it's pretty rare, Adam. Like it sounds to me like I could have any one of your team members in front of me, and I could say, What are those guiding principles? What's the successipy at weaponry?" And
Yeah,
they would say, "Oh, boom, boom, boom." And
that's it.
that is such a huge game changer. Most businesses don't have that clarity, don't have that simplicity. And then if we could layer on top of that, let's hire, lead, and fire to that simplicity so that,
Yeah,
culturally, like you've built a whole team and culture around that. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that. And then thank you for being real to share something that a lot of business owners struggle with, like when can I hire that next person And hopefully, what we've talked about today will help people get a little bit better at that.
Well, I greatly appreciate it, Brad. I think that you've offered some good insight and good feedback, and I think that one of the things that business owners need to do is act dumb, right? Like too often too often as the leader, and as as the founder, the leader, the principal of your organization, you feel like you should have all the answers. Uh, but if you have all the answers, you don't get any better, right? And so I think that
Yeah.
it's more important. If I want one other thing to share with anyone else who's thinking about creating their own business, buying the business, leading a business, don't be afraid to say I don't know this yet, right? And say I'm
Right.
going to find out. I mean, the greatest thing I did when I started the weaponry is I gave myself permission to be an amateur, right? To say
Mm.
I'm not a professional. I was really a great professional creative, lead. I was the chief creative officer of a very big, successful organization, and I had to be a pro at that. But I was definitely an amateur at entrepreneurship in the beginning, and because I gave myself permission to be an amateur, I gave myself, I studied, I listened, I sought out advice. And I was a sponge to all sorts of good information, and so don't be afraid if you're getting into this. Don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, I don't know. I don't have the answer. You may have, my people, my clients, my partners or collaborators may have asked a question that they think that I should know. And you don't feel like you have to have all the answers. You just have to have more good questions, really, than good answers to be successful.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Another bonus idea from Adam today. You're a sponge, and because of that, you're a wealth of what you can share. Adam, if people want to learn more about the weaponry, or they want to connect with
Yeah.
you on social, how would they do that?
Yeah, so you can go to theweaponry.com and you can find out all kinds of stuff there. On social media, you can find me at Adam Albrecht on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I love connecting on LinkedIn. Just reach out with a note about how you heard about me. And two other things. I write a blog called the Adam Albrecht blog, and you can find that at adamalbrecht.blog. And within the next couple weeks, I will have hit my 1,000th blog post. And I've also written a
That's
book
incredible.
called "What Does Your Fortune Cookie Say?" And so you can find that. And this is 80 important life lessons the universe is trying to share with you. So those are all ways you can connect and find more of the great lessons and learnings that I've picked up along the way.
Thank you, Adam. It's been great to have you on the show. For everybody out there, please like, share, review, rate, do all those things to help as many business owners as possible, as many seven-figure business owners as possible, get access to these episodes. Amazing guests like Adam sharing their real lessons learned, bringing real challenges. We're trying to help as many seven-figure business owners as possible achieve the business of their dreams and the life that they want. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time for another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast.